You're listening to the Clean Comedy Podcast with your host, James Creviston.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Clean Comedy Podcast. It's James, and today I have a great guest for you guys. I have a comedian that is in Texas. He's not from Texas, though, actually. He's born in Ohio, lives in San Antonio now, and now he's a teacher and stand-up comedian. So I actually met him when Darren Carter and I went to San Antonio to tour there and to do shows, and he was the, I don't know if he was a house MC or the house opener or whatever, but he was hilarious and talking about teachers. There were teachers in the crowd who loved a lot of his stuff too. And so actually I have some spanking material that relates to teachers and they like that. So once I knew that he was his teacher stuff was working with teachers, if I could kind of relate to teachers, it was really good. So it was really big and very helpful and stuff. And he tours with Bobby Smith, B. Smitty. You guys saw him on the podcast before. And they have a thing called The Worst of Both Worlds. So I don't know what that is, but I'm very excited to hear more about it and talk to Jeremy. So please welcome Mr. Jeremy Brown. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you remember that weekend? Do you remember the weekend
I do.
that we were there?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. With Darren Carter, the party starter.
Darren Carter, the party starter. He brought me down there, and we did some shows and stuff, and that was awesome at the brand new club and stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems to be taking off and doing well there and stuff. So are you like that? Are you just the one they picked to come open usually? Or
yeah, I worked with Bobby and I host there when I can. But yeah, it's just I was lucky enough to work with you that weekend.
Yeah, and you're hilarious. So it's
Thank
always
you, man.
good
I appreciate it.
to have somebody who also it works clean and does well with us and just helps to move the needle forward. So it was really nice because I've had openers when I was a feature that wasn't clean, and then the other two are clean. So it's very off-putting to the crowd.
Yeah.
They're like, wait, I thought we were at a clean show or whatever, and it was stuff. So how did you get into stand-up? How did you get to San Antonio? All that stuff. Kind of give us your origin story there.
Yeah, so getting into stand-up, I was fat and awkward. So it was basically develop a sense of humor or really be miserable all the time. So yeah, I just kind of would make small jokes in class and I would get laughs. Teachers hated it. I loved it. So really just continued there. And then really just started with, making jokes about myself to avoid other people making jokes about me. And then just that was kind of it. I would be the funny guy when I would hang out with friends and stuff. And they said, you should try stand up. I never thought I would be able to do it. I'm like, I'm funny conversationally, but the idea of writing prepared material, doing it on stage for strangers terrified me. And then I was in college visiting a friend at their college. And they said, hey, we're not going to do anything until you do 5 minutes for us in the living room. So they basically took me hostage and said, do 5 minutes. I did it. Made my friends laugh, and they're jerks. So if I could make them laugh, I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. And then started I was in a small conservative town, went to a Christian college. Basically the only area within 2 hours of me to do comedy was a coffee shop on Friday nights. You've got high school kids playing acoustic guitar, and then I would go up and all right, everybody shut up, I'm going to tell jokes for 5 minutes. The audience would be miserable because they're not there for comedy, they're there to ignore their kids, and then I tell jokes. So did that, kind of was doing a little bit in Ohio, and then actually lost my teaching job in Ohio. Tried to get another teaching job, wasn't able to, and then found a job managing at a tech company in San Antonio. So packed up my life, moved across the country, ended up in San Antonio, and I was like, cool, this is a big city. I'm going to be famous. This is amazing. Did comedy for about a year, got to do a couple cool shows, but didn't really make any friends in the scene, wasn't really progressing. Had some stuff going on in my personal life. I got moved to second shift at work. And so I just said, all right, I think I'm going to just stop doing comedy. And then was miserable for several years. And then eventually I ended up getting a divorce and said, look, I need something that is going to, bring that spark back. And I said, let me try an open mic. And then it had been, I hadn't done stand up here for about 8 or 9 years. So it
Wow.
was an entirely new scene of new folks. And then I went up and started getting embraced, started making some friends. So comedy was just a lot more fun for me. And that, brought all that passion back. I got back to writing, I was doing a bunch of mics, hanging out with people, trying to build each other up. And it was fun. And that's why I got into comedy, because it was fun. And then that just brought that joy back. So I loved doing it. So I just wanted to do it as much as I could.
That's awesome. That's exactly right. Like comedy should be fun. If you get up and you go like, oh, never do stand up today. Like if you do that, then like get out, man.
Yeah,
Like don't
exactly.
be in it anymore.
Yeah.
So are you not a teacher anymore? Then am I wrong? Or you, I thought you were,
I'm not a
okay.
teacher anymore. I,
Okay.
I was a teacher. I
I
talk
got you.
about teaching just because
Gotcha.
it was a big imprint. It's also led to some other avenues with some great opportunities, having teacher material and formerly being a teacher. So I talk about it, but don't currently do it. I still
Gotcha.
work with schools, but not every day.
All right. That's cool. And then so since you've been doing, I know you and Bobby have been touring
Mhm.
around Texas and a bunch of
Yeah.
other places and stuff. What's your favorite place that you've got to go to, and where have you been able to go tour and do stand up at that you like?
Yeah. So and since kind of getting back into it, it's mainly been San Antonio and the surrounding area. But recently I got to do Houston, which doing Houston for 450 people is absolutely incredible. San Angelo was probably surprisingly my favorite place. I didn't even know San Angelo was a thing. I thought somebody was mispronouncing San Antonio the first time I heard of it. But we went there. It's this bar that's actually pretty big, and I've done bar shows before. I'm like, cool, it's going to be 5 people half listening, people watching sports on TV getting drunk. They're like, no, like they have it. It's the same weekend every month. They shut everything down, they turn off the TVs, the crowd is there, they're into it. It's not a big city, so they're like, we're here for the show. The crowd was so into it. It was such a fun show. It ended up being like a lot of crowd work and like off the cuff stuff, because it was just so much happening with the crowd, but in a fun way. So that was great. But I mean, I'm excited. Next week, we're gonna do Philadelphia, Buffalo, Raleigh, North Carolina, and Hasbrook, New Jersey, with the Teachers Gone Bad tour, which is one of those avenues with teaching. Bobby's going to be on a couple of those shows, so I'm
Nice.
excited to do stuff in new states and finally get to eat a Philly cheesesteak in Philly. That's just a life goal, because I was a fat kid, so I'm living the dream, man.
I have done that. When I got in the military, I worked for a contractor, and we had a contract in New Jersey. And if you know New Jersey and
Yep,
Philly, like you can just drive right down there. So on
yep.
my lunch break, because it was like a 2 hour lunch break that they would take, it was like a FAA whatever type of
Okay.
situation. I would drive down to Philly, go to a cheesesteak place, get 2 Philly cheesesteaks, eat one on my drive back, and then
Yes.
eat one for dinner every night. And I did that for a week. I gained like 20 pounds in 1 week, bro. It was like the worst. so
Yeah,
so bad.
terrible for your heart, but
Yeah, yeah.
fantastic for you.
Yes, yeah. You feel good about like the food, but you feel bad
Yes,
about yourself afterwards.
correct.
It's
Yeah,
like
just
one of
don't
those
tell your
things.
doctor.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember being like, oh man, I probably shouldn't have eaten so many cheesesteaks. But you're only, I mean, there's no guarantee I'm gonna ever be there again or whatever.
Exactly.
Now, is there one place besides Philly that you've always wanted to go do stand up at? A place that you really want to go to and perform?
I have I got to go to the Comedy Store 9 or so years ago, and just watching that show, and basically being in American comedy mecca like that.
Yeah.
That's the dream. Like that night, I had tweeted, and I still hadn't kind of given up on Texas comedy yet. I was like, I will perform here one day. That's the dream. I want to do that, because I've done New York kind of. I actually auditioned for The Last Comic Standing, and I was not one of the invited performers. I was one of the people that slept on the street for 8 hours in the rain, and then got to do like 15 seconds of comedy in front of a person who didn't look up. So I was like, technically that counts. I've done stand up in New York. But yeah, like I do want to go back to New York. Like I'd love to do one of the big clubs there. But yeah, the Comedy Store has just always been the dream.
Well, now you guys have Rogan's Club in Austin, so that's
Yeah.
probably a good place. Although I hear it's packed like all the time, so that's I guess I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad for comedians because it's like it'd be great to perform there, but I guarantee you're probably not going to get up because it's like every high profile comedian there is. And the store was like that for a while. Now
Mhm.
it's kind of not as much because a lot of people went with Rogan to Austin, so there's a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities to kind of perform there now and stuff. And they
Yeah.
do a lot of like shows that are smaller shows that people
Mhm.
produce and self-produce. So
Yeah.
it's fun. I've got to perform in the belly room, but I've never performed on the
Okay.
main stage or the OR or the main room. So it's fun. It's a great
Yeah.
club, great ambiance. It's fantastic. Uh,
Yeah.
so now that you're doing all this touring stuff,
Mhm.
has it has it forced you to write more? Has it forced you to work on things more? Like what have you noticed about yourself
Yeah.
traveling and touring more as a comedian?
I think when I do, it's interesting because I doing the Teachers Gone Bad, it's basically 90% teachers and then 10% their spouses. So I know like I'm in there to do teacher stuff, and depending, I've done some longer sets, so I get to do a little bit of my stuff, but then it's mainly just teacher stuff. I've written more because I know teachers like seeing jokes about teachers that understand them, what they've been through. So I think that it's a great avenue. And they love comedy. This is their night out, and so they're super excited. So it's a great crowd, and I'm trying to work on more for those shows. And then I know a lot of it's not going to translate to like a normal audience of non-teachers. So I'm like, every once in a while I'll get something, I'm like, oh yeah, I can put this in my normal set. And then doing shows with Bobby for sorry, B Smitty for Worst of Both Worlds. It's a lot more playing with the audience. We actually work together at the end. We do some stuff together. We do some Q&As. So I'm trying to work a lot more on thinking on my feet. And then it's also a lot of very different audiences because, Smitty and I, we don't have the same background. We don't look alike. We're not gonna, it's not just gonna be a single type of person at the show. So you get to kind of play with some things, see what works here, what doesn't work here. So I'm thinking about new ideas. It's also great because we've been in a car together for about 30 hours already this year, so we're going back and forth with ideas while we're driving because we've got the time. So yeah, it's kind of generating some ideas. We get to work on some stuff. We've now got a new room where we're going to call it kind of like our gym, where we're going to try some stuff out for when we are doing the bigger shows. So yeah, I'm definitely working a lot more on things because I want to build this to be like, hey, this isn't, a generally Texas area show. It's something that, we did the show at the LOL here, which is the bigger club in San Antonio. We recorded, we took some pictures. We're trying to put a press kit together. So hopefully we can get to a point where clubs from out of state are like, hey, y'all have some traction. We'd love to bring you out. And so we can travel around the country telling jokes.
That's awesome. That's the goal. One of my big goals is to go back to Texas because I grew up out there. I grew up in
Yeah.
Temple in the Temple area. Go back there and sell out the Bell County Arena, which I know sounds like
Okay.
like not a big deal, but like to me growing up there and like that was where I saw Vanilla Ice perform when I was a kid, believe it or not. That was the first concert I ever went to.
If you can perform on a stage where Vanilla Ice performed, I mean, at that point, just quit comedy because that's the peak, man. You're not going to top that.
Yeah, Bell County Expo Center. It's like the like one place when I was a kid where I was like, oh, it'd be awesome to perform here. Just because that was the first concert I ever went to. My mom took me to, and I remember and being
Nice.
like, oh, that was weird. It was interesting though, and I love doing that, and I love that part of Texas. Like that Central Texas area is amazing
Yeah.
for everything, and I love that. I love that Bobby opened the club there. I'm glad that it's there and that he's doing and stuff. What does that mean? That the name of it, the worst of both
Yeah.
worlds. What is that supposed to be?
Worst of Both Worlds is a play on the Jay-Z and R. Kelly album Best of Both Worlds.
Okay.
And we were kicking around ideas and a lot of it, like how do we put this together because we wanted it to be like, okay, we're different people, and we started coming up with like high and dry and things like that, and everything sounded like drugs or alcohol.
Right.
Neither of us really do that. Neither of us really talk about it. So we're like, okay, that doesn't make sense. And Bobby said Worst of Both Worlds, and I just started laughing. I'm like, yeah, that's the one. And I think it allows people to see like, hey, we've got you're getting two very different types of people, because we come from a different place. We have like a different style of comedy, but the nice thing is we kind of share a sense of humor. We're not the same on stage, but we mesh well together with our humor. So you're going to get different perspectives on things, but it's not just like you're going to a show and we switch comics. You're like, oh, what just happened? Like it's still got a good flow and you're in for a fun night, but it's definitely two different worlds coming together.
I like that. I like that idea of having like two different kinds of comedians because I perform with one of my good friends, David Studebaker, and we're not super different, but I mean, you can tell the difference, but we're similar enough where you can go, yeah, that was they were like each other. It was not really
Mhm.
off or anything like that. So I like the idea of having the juxtaposition. Also, I think Darren and I also have a good
Oh
not
yeah,
we're not the same. He's a different kind of comedian than I am
for
and
sure.
stuff. So I thought that was good for us too because I kind of like am not. I kind of go a little slower and do a thing. I don't do any sound effects. I don't do any
Yeah.
stuff or whatever. And so then Darren comes and it's like it's literally a party, So
Yes. Yeah.
it's a funny way to do it. It was fun to tour Texas and be able to come back home and see. All right, this is good. This works here. This doesn't work here.
Yeah.
Um, I was nervous that some jokes that I know do well in LA might not do well in Texas,
Yeah.
but I didn't have that experience. So I was grateful
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, and that's one of the things I've talked about because I mean, starting in Ohio, it's a small Midwestern town. I that's how I grew up, spent most of my life there. I was like, okay, does this stuff translate? Came down to Texas, and a lot of stuff they didn't really like. And so now I've been here for a decade, and so I'm developing more of a Texas sense of humor, right? Like I'm incorporating Spanish into my jokes and things like
Oh,
that. So it'll be interesting to kind of go like, okay, stuff I do here, how's it going to do in North Carolina? How's it going to do in New Jersey, Buffalo, Philadelphia? Like, yeah, traveling to see, is this a Texas joke? Is this a Midwest joke? Is this, hey, everybody has liked this joke no matter where I go? And again, which is going to encourage me to write, progress, travel, and do more because yeah, I don't want it to just be like, cool, yeah, Jeremy's, he'll be solid if he does a show in San Antonio. But
right.
you're doing a show in Dallas, don't bring him up. Or like, hey, okay, now he's doing great in all the Texas towns, but don't bring him up to Chicago. He's going to fall flat. Like I want to be able to perform for any type of audience in any state. That's the goal. Because if you want to make it a living, you got to be able to perform wherever. So that's what I'm working
That's
towards.
no, that's true. Now for your teacher sets, do you have to do clean for all those shows?
No, teachers very much enjoy the swears.
Okay, all right. I was
Yeah,
just curious.
yep, everything's just so buttoned up during the day that it literally is like teachers go nuts. Doors, if they open an hour early, there's already a line. When we did a show in Houston, there were two full length lines waiting to get in. As soon as they get in, they sit down, they start drinking. They're
Wow.
like, this is their big night out. We did it on spring break, so they knew they didn't have to go to work. So yeah, that's their time to let loose. So yeah, it's no holds barred on those shows.
I was gonna ask you. I was like, hopefully it wasn't during the week, and then they're like hung over the next day. Like, shh, really?
Yeah, exactly. That's when they're bringing out the TV and
Yeah,
plugging in
yeah,
the VCR, depending how well funded they are. But
yeah,
yeah, it's like, all right, Bill Nye the Science Guy is teaching
yep,
today. Everybody have
yeah.
fun.
Exactly. Those are always the best days when you're a kid, though. Like, I love those days when the teacher was like, "All right, we're gonna watch a video." I'm like, "All right, well, I can zone out now. I don't have to be
Yeah,
focused
exactly.
anymore."
Yeah.
Those are the best things. What is the biggest thing you would go back like if you because I know you took that break between starting
Hmm.
comedy and restarting it. If you could go
Yeah.
back and in time to your early self starting out in comedy, what piece of advice would you give yourself? What would you tell yourself to keep your either a keep yourself from stopping or
Yeah.
just to progress faster? Like what kind of piece of advice would you give yourself?
It's tough. I probably would have told when I was starting out first, I probably would have said find a way to do more mics, find a way to get stage time somewhere. Like there wasn't really a lot of opportunity in my hometown, but okay, what are the other areas where there are opportunities and try and get out? And I mean, I was working full time college student, and then teaching full time, so it wasn't the easiest, but to be able to progress faster because once I was able to get a couple of opportunities, work with some people. They're like, oh, hey man, this is really good. But then I was getting to the tail end of when I was in Ohio. So I didn't get there as fast. Then it would be, okay, stay humble, because, and I see this with a lot of new comics. As soon as anything goes well, or they get to do a cool show, or they get an opportunity or a compliment, it's just like a times 10 goes off in their head. And like, oh yes, I am the best. I tried out for Last Comic Standing like a year into comedy. Like I had no business driving to New York and sleeping outside to audition. Like that was very dumb. And then I think if I had kind of maintained that humble, and I didn't think I was, Dave Chappelle or anything like that, but kind of realizing where I am, having that mindset when I moved to San Antonio, I wouldn't be thinking like, okay, I'm going to just start getting shows immediately and everybody's going to want to talk to me, and kind of lower those expectations and realize like, okay, now you're in an actual big city. I'm from a town of like 40,000 people. San Antonio is the 7th biggest city in the country. There is a very big difference in what's going on, how many people are doing it, that kind of thing. Because now looking back on it, that's one of my biggest regrets, is not sticking with it at that time, because there are some absolute killers from San Antonio that they were, when I was moving to Texas, they were kind of getting a little bit bigger, getting into things more seriously. And so I could have had great relationships with them. I could have been working, and I lost, 8-9 years of developing. Like these guys have specials out, like they've been on countrywide tours, like all the stuff I would love to do. I missed out on that. And then recently realizing how important social media is. I just thought it was this dumb thing kids are doing. There's no reason to get into this. And now I'm seeing like, hey, this guy's got 1 million followers, so he can pretty much call any club and get a weekend or whatever night he wants, whatever. Or like this person, they drop merch, it sells out immediately. And because comedy is about butts and seats. You can be hilarious, but if nobody's coming to see you, none of that matters. So trying to, record yourself, post clips where you can without giving everything away, reach out to other people, build those relationships, because that's huge. I've gotten opportunities because of people that I know. They gave me a shot, it went well, so I got another shot here. Like build your network, build your relationships, build your social media wherever you can. Keep writing and keep at it. If you love it, keep at it, because it will be tough. You're not gonna progress as fast as you want. Like even the overnight sensations, those are people that have been putting in years and years of work, treated it like a full-time job, and then something broke their way. It wasn't like, yeah, I've been doing stand-up for 5 minutes and now I'm on HBO. Like that's not going to happen. It's a grind, and you have to work very hard at it to get to the places you want to go. And it's not overnight, which I think social media has kind of distorted some people's view on how quick you can get famous, but they're not wrong in the fact that social media will kind of put the gas on the fire, if you will, when it comes to getting those opportunities.
That's true. That's true. You see a lot where someone has a lot of social media following, and they're selling out clubs, and you're like, I've never seen them do a show in
Yeah.
my life. Like,
Yep.
they've never been on stage. They do funny skits on TikTok or Instagram or whatever. And now they're headlining this club. But I've also seen that I know a lot of comedians who've said, "Oh man, that person fell flat. That didn't go how they
Yeah.
intended." Because you
I
have time to produce a sketch and
For sure.
edit it and do it as many times as you want. But when you're live on stage, there's no redos, right? You
Yeah.
watch the Chris Rock live thing. There's no redos. They did edit some stuff later when they re-released it, but you can't redo what he
Yeah.
did. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, it's interesting you said that, because I talked to somebody about that, and they were like, well, once you get that big, it's an experience. It's not a stand-up show. It's an experience. Like, come and experience this evening with me. And then I've seen some people that I think it's really smart. They know I'm huge on social media. I have some stuff. I'm not going to force myself to be a 45 to 60-minute headliner. Let me come in, host, my name. I'm going to bring you and get your butt in the seat. But then I'm going to put these other funny people on the show. So you come for my name. I introduce you to these other comics. You enjoy the whole show. You associate with that with me, and it's part of my brand and the social media. So yeah, I've seen some people, they try and headline. They're not like, you get celebrities that hey, I'm famous right now, let me do some stand-up. Somebody writes for them. It's not really them, and they're just reciting things. And that, I think, kind of fades away. But yeah, you've got some people that I think are really smart about it. They take advantage of what they've got. They build other people, and that's the great thing. They're bringing other people up with them, because that's going to be huge for their following, and then they get big. And so I love that idea of, if you do have this platform, building other people up with that, because I think that's been, I think, really one of the best things that rejuvenated me in comedy, is the community. That's been my favorite part, because nobody does stand up because they're a normal, well-adjusted, very easygoing person. Like, we go there because we're misfits, and then you get to hang out with these other misfits. You feel like, yeah, these are my people. They get me. And so then if somebody makes it, that's what I want to see. People root for each other. If you make it, cool, let's see who we can bring up with me. Like, and that's what I love seeing, when somebody gets that big break, and then they've always been friends with this person. They've done shows with them locally. They want to bring them with them when they go national. I love seeing that. And I want to root for if any other comic in San Antonio makes it, awesome. Like, build each other up, and then hope like the rising tide raises all ships. Like,
Yep.
Sweet. Now everybody's looking at us. More opportunities are going to come our way. I think that's great, seeing that kind of stuff. And if you can use your platform like that, I'm all about it.
Yeah. And that's the purpose of this podcast, is to one, help educate other comedians on what they can do to kind of get better at comedy or whatever. And two, show off other people. So then they go, hey, I saw that guy on the podcast and now he does this thing. Oh, I'll follow him. And it
Yeah.
keeps doing that. I want to lift people up. That's
sure.
the big thing, is to help other comedians, like, because it feels, especially in the open mic scene when you're starting out, it feels like you're all competing for one thing,
Yes.
for that stage time. But
Yep.
then as you go on and you realize, oh no, we're all in the same boat here. We're just maybe we're looking at different
Yeah.
things as we're going down the same river.
Yep.
And it's hard. So I'm glad that you have that same mindset. It's a really good thing.
For sure.
Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to promote? Go ahead and shout it out.
Yeah. So Teachers Gone Bad, Buffalo, Philadelphia, Hasbrook, New Jersey, Raleigh, North Carolina. Check us out. If you're in the Texas area, you wanna book a great show. Worst of Both Worlds. My social media is at Jeremy B Funny, like Jeremy Brown Funny. At B Smitty Comedy, I'll always plug him. That's my partner. But yeah, just hit me up. Trying to do shows wherever. If you've got an opportunity, I'd love to tell jokes or talk about comedy with you on a podcast. Just anything I can take advantage of. I love comedy. I love working with people. I love making people laugh. So however I can do that, I'm all for it.
Perfect. And I'll put all the links to all that in the show notes as well,
Perfect.
so you guys can get to Jeremy's stuff pretty easily. I'll also, if you want to send me any links to any of the shows or the Teachers Gone Bad or
Okay.
whatever, any of that stuff, you send it to me. I'll put it in the show notes for you guys.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for listening. Please like and subscribe. Go and make sure, if you're listening to this, go leave a comment or a review on Apple, and go sign up on YouTube. This video will be on YouTube. There's also the audio version anywhere you can find podcasts. Please like and subscribe all those places. And we are so grateful for you listening. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.